sit, sit. This is Jones. Well, see if we can get you back over here so people can see you at home. What a handsome fellow you are. Well, that's Jones, and this is Jones's roadmap to success. So basically, we started off talking about exercise. And the video above that we shot is a great illustration of how important this is. So basically, if you have a dog that jumps up on you or paws, or in his case, grabbing your clothing and pulling you away, he's trying to tell us what to do. And it's not hard to see why he did that, because every time that he jumped up on his guardians, they would pet him and then push him down, or pet him and say, get down. So the petting is validating. So anything your dog is doing when you pet is what you are specifically rewarding your dog for. This includes acts as well as states of mind. If you pet a fearful dog, you will make it more fearful. Excited, more excited. Aggressive, more aggressive. Jumpy, more jumpy. Pulley, grabby, mouthy. Now this works for good things and bad things, and we'll talk about petting with a purpose in a minute, and that's going to be a way to reward the positive things. Same thing with what I call passive training. So basically, what I want the guardians to start doing is when he gets grabby like that, or jumpy, or starts chewing on the flowers, or digging holes, or barking, we interpret these things as the dog's being naughty. Well, we should interpret that as the dog's way of saying, I have too much energy right now. Would you like to help me deplete my energy, or would you like me to do it myself? Now, you don't want to help me? I'm going to just jump up and grab you and pull your sleeve. Well, the problem with that is good attention and bad attention from us is pretty much the same thing. So jumping up and grabbing your sleeve is a great way to get your attention. Chewing on the furniture is a great way to get, because you're yelling at me. And if I steal your high value item, your shoe, you're running around the house chasing me, and I'm not going to give it back. So all these things motivate dogs to do the things that we don't want them to do. So it's important that when your dog does those sort of things, you interpret it as how long has it been since Jones has had exercise? Keep on telling him Jonesy. How long has it been since he's been exercised? If it's been longer than an hour, he probably needs some exercise. So that's the first thing we talked about. So I always like to max out and find out what the maximum amount of exercise a dog will do with any particular activity. So if we're doing fetch, which is the one that he really likes, I would, with an empty stomach, dogs should not exercise until it's been 90 minutes after they've eaten. They have a distended stomach, it can fold over, and it can be fatal. So dogs exercise first, and then feed them afterwards, but they need 10 minutes after their exercise ends before you feed them or before the next thing. Feed a dog, give it water or food after when it's still just gonna throw it up. So, all right, so basically what you wanna do is when you're playing fetch, show him that you have the ball or the object. As you throw it, you say fetch. When he picks it up with his mouth, you say fetch, and you hold the treat out here. And then when he drops the treat, put it in his mouth and say fetch a third time. Now, he has an issue with drop it, and just really quick, if you want to teach him a drop, when he has one of his toys, a low-value item, and this is the dog's mouth, you go over there with a high-value treat, and you hold it, touch his nose, and hold it right here, like within an inch of his nose. He's going to try to take it with the object in his mouth. When he figures out he can't do that, he's going to drop the item. Don't pick it up. This is why dogs don't give it up, because we want to pick it up, or we try to pull things out of their mouth, and that becomes a game that they like doing. Nothing wrong with tugs, but when you're doing that, I would call it tugs when you're doing it. Say tugs each time when you first start doing it. That way he knows tugs means we're going to play tug of war. But if you say drop it, the way to teach the drop is when he's got the high value in his mouth, you hold the treat here, just wait, don't say anything. When he drops it, don't pick up the item. Put the treat in his mouth, say the word drop, and then he gets the item. So after a while, the dog's like, if you ask me to drop, I'm going to drop what I have. I get something better than what I have, and I get my original stuff back most of the time. If you do have to take the object away, I would have 2 treats. So I'd hold the first one up. The dog drops the item. I put the treat in their mouth and say drop. But if I don't do anything else, he's going to pick the object up. So once the first treat goes in the mouth, I show him that I have a second treat while he's chewing it. Then I throw it over about a foot away this way. The dog turns and goes over here to pick it up. I pick up the underwear or shoe or whatever it is. And then I replace it with a bully stick or a cow's kneecap or a cow's cheek or some other item that's of equal or greater value, so he doesn't feel like he's losing out in the situation. Okay, so forms of exercise. Playing fetch for him is a good one, but again, max him out with an empty stomach the first time until you know what the maximum number of fetches that he will do it for is. And then we want to exercise about 50 to 75% number, and you're going to play around with those numbers. Sometimes maybe before going to the dog park, maybe he needs 12 fetches. Before going for a walk, he needs 10 fetches. Remember, exercising before a walk produces a better walk. Before guests come over, maybe he's 38 fetches to not jump up on them and do things. So you can set your dog up for success by getting it exercise. The other thing we want to do is look for other creative ways of exercise. Another great one to do is scent games, hiding treats around the house. And every time he licks one up, call it search, hunt, find it, whatever the word is you want to use, treasure. And so you say, treasure, and he goes, no, there's 5 treats in here I can go get. He's using his nose to find them. That's physically draining for him. It's stimulating for him. It's relaxing for him, and it boosts his confidence. So he accomplished several things. It's a great way to exercise him. Another thing, when you're walking, make sure you let him sniff. Most people don't realize that dogs burn more energy by sniffing on a walk than they do from the locomotion of walking. Running is different, but if you're walking, let him sniff as much as you can, as long as it's safe to do so. Potty. Potty. Whatever the word is you want to use, I just use potty, it's pretty universal, but come up with a list of the official command words. And throughout the session, the Guardians were using multiple names for same command. Come, here, over here boy. That's 5 different ways of asking him to come. The more words we say, the harder it is for the dogs to make the connection. Now, when I know a command, a dog knows a command, I say it twice, and I'll show you right now. Jones, come. So if I tell him to sit, I would say sit. When he sits, I sit. So once he did the action, then I paid him with the treat, and then I told him why I'm paying him. Most people say sit, the dog sits, they say good boy, and the Guardians here do the same thing. When that good boy means every single thing, it doesn't mean any one specific thing. So your dog will learn a hell of a lot faster if you say just the command word. So every time he comes to you, pet him and say come. Every time he lays down, crash or chill or whatever your word is for that. Every time he sits, pretty obvious. The more that you use just one word, the faster he'll learn. Okay, so basically for exercise, fetch is, I think, going to be a great thing for him. But again, remember, if he's jumping up and he don't want to fetch, then make sure you leave, like we talked about in the video above. Once you've left, wait for him to disengage, then grab the leash, come outside, and immediately take him for a walk, or do whatever the activity is to exercise him. Another one that you can do is get a doggy backpack and put some weight, bottles of water, and those are also helpful to help dogs burn excess energy, because the walk is now more difficult, hence burns more energy. And then the last thing I talked about was using treat dispensing toys. So the Guardians have a puzzle here that's pretty difficult that he can cruise through pretty quickly. I like to have a variety of them. I showed the video for a snuffle mat and an Omega Paw treat ball. Snuffle mat is the floor mat you can feed him his food out of. Omega Paw treat ball, that's also something you feed his food out of. But if you have guests, you're post-corona and you have some guests in your house and he's being a bit of a nuisance, you don't have time to exercise him, again, exercise, take him outside and fetch him for 5 minutes and go back inside would be the preferred way to do it. But you could also put a Omega Paw treat ball with some of his food in it and let him roll it around the house, and so he's preoccupied getting some food while we entertain. So come up with, the idea is to play around with the quantities of all of these forms of exercise so we find the right quantity for the right situation. There are going to be different amounts of exercise for different activities, but eventually he's going to learn that, or we're going to set him up by putting him in a position to succeed. Now, the Guardian asked at one point, well, what if I do if I didn't get a chance to exercise him and he's doing these things? Well, you have to know that he's going to be like this before your guests come over, and exercise him proactively before. And if you can't, then you do it with your guests. And if he doesn't want to play fetch, play keep away. Throw the frisbee back and forth. Dogs like chasing the frisbee. That's accomplishing the same thing. Even if he never gets the frisbee, he's still running back and forth, and we're burning that energy. So remember, if he's naughty or chewing the flowers or all those things, interpret that as he needs some exercise. Get it the appropriate amount of exercise, and you're going to find his behaviors much better. We also talked about rules. He doesn't have any rules, and he doesn't listen to his Guardians very well because he gets everything he wants, and he doesn't have them acting like leaders. In the dog world, leaders are the ones who enforce rules. So some of the rules I suggest is not being allowed on the furniture, having to sit at the door, not being allowed to be in the kitchen where we're preparing food, and also not being allowed any humans who are eating. I showed you that exercise in the kitchen to do those. If you forget how to do that, message me. I have videos I can share with you. But it's really important that you enforce those rules. Every time you do, the dog sees you acting like a leader, and it also practices self-restraint and practices not going to the kitchen. So when your guests come over and they're eating, and the dog stays behind an invisible line, your guests are like, oh my God, your dog is so well behaved now. You're like, of course, we hired David from Doggone Problems. But no, we just showed you how to establish an invisible boundary and helped him practice it until it became the behavior that he just automatically offers. Speaking of behavior, because the Guardians pet him when he jumps up and does a lot of things they don't want, I talked about passive training and petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose is exactly what it sounds. It's petting your dog for a reason. So if a dog comes up to me and nudges me, he's telling me what to do. Leaders tell, followers instead ask. So next time he tells me, if I pet him, I'm saying, yes, you're my boss. So if he jumps up on me, what I would do is I froze. I became the most boring person ever. You can leave the room as well. But what I normally do is I freeze, unless the dog's really digging or biting my hands, And then when he's like, you're lame, and he jumps down, then I give him something else to do. I tell him to sit or lie down, and I'm rewarding him for that action. If he jumps down, I pet him and say down. The only way to get that off is to go back on. So instead, when he jumps off of me, I freeze, become boring. He gets bored, he jumps down. Then I tell him to sit or lie down and do something I want. When he does that, I pet him. If he doesn't do that, then he doesn't get any attention. So petting with a purpose will teach the dog that I can't tell the humans anymore. I have to ask, and better than ask, I have to pay them for the privilege of their attention. And what will happen is he'll start sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention. When he does, make sure you do pet him or give him some attention. Otherwise, he can go back to jumping up on you. Remember to use the watchword of paycheck if you suspect someone's petting without a purpose. So if somebody comes in and I'm petting Jones and he's standing, they say paycheck. Even if I did it right, I'd stop petting, tell him to sit. If he sits, pet him under his chin, say the word sit and only the word sit, not sit. Remember, inflection matters. And then I pet him as much or as little as I want. And I tell the person, actually, I asked him to sit. And when you came in the room and opened the door, he stood up and I continued petting him. But thanks for reminding me because I do forget to pet without a purpose. Even if you want to pet him, you still tell him to sit. And if he doesn't sit within that 3-second window of the first and only time you tell him, show him you're living your best life with 18 other things to do. Pull out your phone. Have a fake phone call, watch TV, make a sandwich, pet the cat, whatever it is. Show him that, look, you were number one on my list, but if you can't be bothered to sit, I go on to other things. It doesn't bother me at all. That will make your pets more valuable, which will really help. It'll also help him practice sitting. It'll also help him by boosting his self-esteem, and it helps him see you as more of a leader because he's not telling you anymore, he's asking. Truly becomes a gift. It'll take you about 2 months to get in a habit of petting with a purpose, but if you do, you can use that hand motion. Jones, like this. So I'm going to go an arc over his head. As soon as his head, then I lower it, let him lick the treat off my hand if he has one. If I have a treat, if I don't, I just pet him under his chin. So that becomes at least, I always get this little chin tickle reward. Sometimes I get a treat, sometimes I don't. When you're doing it, make sure you sell it like you have something in your hand. As I go down, I start with a flat hand. As I go down, I start curling my fingers up. So if you see my fingers start curling up as I go down, if the dog's there, to shield his vision. And don't fake him out too many times because then it'll stop working for you. Use a kissing sound to get his attention. And then I can lower the hand. He comes to me. When he's where I want, I raise it over his head to sit, or come, or whatever the word is. All right, so that's petting with a purpose. So that's if you want to pet the dog or the dog wants you to pet him. The flip side of that is passive training, and that's celebrating the things the dog does that you like. Most of us train our dogs to misbehave. We come home and it jumps up on us and we pet it. Well, I just rewarded you for jumping up on me, which the guardians do a lot of, inadvertently. So instead, we're going to freeze and not reward those things. But we want to tell him what he could do to make us happy. Most dogs come to us, we take that for granted, ignore it. They sit at our feet, we ignore it. They lay down, they drop a ball. We ignore all these things. But as soon as they start chewing our furniture or jumping up or barking, we correct it. Remember, good attention, bad attention is the same thing. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to reward him when he voluntarily offers us the behavior that we want. So every time he comes to you, pet him and say, come. Within 3 seconds of him coming. Every time he sits, within 3 seconds of sitting, pet him under his chin, say sit. Every time he lays down, pet him and say crash or chill or whatever your word is. Every time he drinks water, say agua, merlot, whatever your favorite cocktail is, or the name of your favorite bar. So you say Heineken, he goes and drinks water, your friends will think that's funny. Same thing with food. Come up with a funny name, call it sushi or chimichanga or meatball or pork chop or whatever you want to come up with. So every time he takes his first bite of food for 4 months, he hears the word pork chop. Well, pork chop means I get to go and eat food. And make sure that you're eating something before you feed him. And you can also do that exercise where you put the food down, and if he starts going, if this is the bowl, these dishes are the bowl. So I put it down on the ground. If this is the dog's head, he starts going for it, I start lowering my hand to cover the bowl. And as soon as he stops, or he backs away, then I pull my hand up. He goes forward, I put my hand back down. So I'm going back and forth until eventually he backs up, I pull my hand away, and he stays there, then I pull my hand further away. Kind of similar to the leave it exercise that I showed you off camera. Now, if you forget the leave it exercise, message me. I have a video I can share with you that goes through all the ins and outs, but I think you guys have that. But making sure that you eat something first and making sure that helping him practice, he eats or he sits there and watches you eat. While there's food in his bowl, he's staying 7 feet away from you and he's not eating his food. That helps you have dominion over the food. That really elevates you as an authority figure to him. So passive training is the watchword I use that is celebrate. So I'm standing here and he's about to come over here. So if somebody walks up to me and I miss it, he didn't come in camera view, but he came close. When he comes up to me, somebody says celebrate, I just turn and start petting the dog. I don't ask, I don't give a treat, I just start petting him immediately. Then I look at what he's doing. Oh, he's standing, so I'm going to say come. or he's sitting, pretty obvious, or whatever he's doing. So we're going to start rewarding the dog for doing the things that we want. And the more we do that, the more he will start emulating those behaviors. Instead of jumping up on us or stealing stuff or chewing the furniture, he's going to sit to prepay for attention or lay down or whatever it is. I would name all of your individual toys, call each toy a specific name. So every time he brings you the strawberry, say Berry, and pet him a little bit. And after a while, you can say Berry, and he goes and gets the strawberry toy. The guardian's doing an outstanding job right now. He wants to go inside. He doesn't have any practice, so he's going and he's swimming against the screen, the sliding glass door. And the guardians aren't even looking at him. Remember, any attention is validating. So if he goes like this, you look at him, he's going to just do it more. But now he's not doing that. So now, if he's scratching at the door and he stops and he goes to the other door, I would go to the door and then open it a crack and tell him to sit. If he sits, I'd open the door, let him in. If he doesn't sit, close the door and then walk away and just let him see you living your best life. Remember, playing hard to get is a powerful motivator for the dog. So let me see, what else? We also talked about the escalating consequences. You guys took good notes on that, but message me if you have any questions. I showed you how to keep them out of the kitchen and all the rest of that stuff. Let me see, the exercise above is going to be huge for you guys. Getting up and leaving the room, going behind the baby gate. But again, make him sit every time you go let him through the baby gate or through this door outside, the sliding glass door, into the car, out of the car, go walk into Starbucks. Sitting, like I said, is more subordinate positions. The more you make him do that, the more he's going to like it, or more he's going to follow it. Order one of these. This is the mini treat pouch from PetSafe, loaded up full of treats. And that way, if you, one of the guardians had a bunch of treats in his pocket, but then he emptied his pocket, the dog kept on going for it. So this way, if you have it here, you just take this thing off, or you could give this to guests. Now, we don't want to jumping up and costing guests, but if guests have treat, and tell the guest, you can give him as many treats as you want, but he has to do something to earn it. Every single one of them, and you can only ask one time. And after a while, he'll just go start sitting in front of the guest or laying down or doing those things because that's what gets him his attention. Okay, a couple of housekeeping things. Remember, anything your dog's doing when you pet is what you're reinforcing, including unbalanced states of mind. So don't pet when the dog is in an unbalanced state of mind or doing an action that you don't like. Remember, they have an opposition reflex. If they jump up on you, you push them, they're programmed to push back. If they're on leash pulling and you pull, they're programmed to pull against you on the leash. So avoid doing that. You won't activate that opposition reflex. Remember, good attention, bad attention, same thing. Remember that not saying no is pretty much the same thing as saying yes. And dogs learn through repetition, consistency, and good timing. You have 3 seconds only to correct or reward them, so make sure your timing is really quick. Let me see, what else? Use fun command words. Come up with a list of the official command words. And I'd like you to also say repeat or rerun, because both guardians had a tendency to say the same command multiple times, and that helps the dog practice not listening to it, or helps the dog practice it out of context. So sit, sit, sit. Well, sit means look at the humans curiously, because when they say sit, sit, sit is when I'm standing looking at them. So instead, that's why we use that passive training to celebrate. So every time he sits on his own, we pet him and say sit. Now we're putting it in context. So try not to say sit, good boy. Come, good boy. Lay down, good boy. Instead, sit, sit. Come, come. Lay down, lay down. So you're going to really echo it a couple times, just twice. And after a while, that second time you say it, the time you say it when they're in the action of doing it, that's the most important time to hear it. And that will help them have a better verbal response. Jones, come. Jones. So if he won't come, I might do that and throw a treat halfway distance between me and him. That didn't work, so well, now there's 2 treats there. We'll throw one a little bit closer. So now he got up off his rear end and started walking this way because there's a treat there. And there's another treat right there. You're going to walk over that one. Come here, Jones. Come here, buddy. Come. Jones. Sit. This is Jones, and this is Jones' roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.